a little elf workshop.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
This is ridiculous.
That one doesn't have the.
Which one?
If you could just put
I bet
the
you
map
don't
in
think
front
you're
of the
going
white
to be doing
page.
this when you got to New York.
You're looking for something then?
I'm pleased to be here this morning and to greet you, and I know there are a lot of students with us, and that's wonderful. For those of us that have been struggling with improving instruction and learning over the years, you know, we're at a point, we're trying everything, and we think we have something here that actually adds value. And so I encourage you to pursue this, to look at it, study it, and see how we can leverage from it. At the core of this is a serious problem, and that is one that's been with us for at least 4 decades now. And that is a lack of performance among our students in certain areas that require quantitative thinking, critical thinking, mathematics. And this has really been a struggle for us, and it continues to be a struggle, and it's not going to get easier. So we look at ways that we can improve the success of our students because, quite frankly, the world has become a much more challenging place. And for the students here today, if you think your differential equations are difficult now, wait. And things are changing. So we have to think seriously about how we can be more effective with the students that come to us looking for that gateway to their future. So we have to find ways of taking the students who come here and preparing them so that they would be able to be successful in these fields as they move forward. And that is essentially the focus of your discussions today. We've latched onto one method that appears to have some traction, collaboration, students working together. It is becoming more of a practice in industry, that people work collaboratively. And so it does prepare them in some ways for what's ahead. But the core of this is preparing them to be successful and be able to master some skills related to critical thinking.
As the President said, one of the challenges we face as educators is to see how best we can develop and enhance, best student learning practices, best teaching practices. And I think that peer learning has found to be an exciting way in which we can engage our students, in which we can enable our students think beyond and think outside of the box. To that extent, this conference is a very useful conference to develop other ways in which we can deepen this experience. So on behalf of all of us, I say welcome to CityTech. Thank you.
I'm here to introduce our keynote speaker, and it has really been a wonderful experience to start to work with Professor Marshall, because I knew her, I'm retired, so I knew her before, probably 10 years ago. And when I asked her to be part of our PLTLIS organization, she accepted it. And we are so excited that she is here today to give our keynote. And I won't go into details because she will talk about the Higher Education Academy. May I introduce Professor Stephanie Marshall, who is the Deputy Chief Executive for Research and Policy at the Higher Education Academy in England or the UK.
Thank you very much, Ellen. As Ellen said, I met Ellen over 10 years ago. I think it was at a conference in Frankfurt, as I recollect, when she was telling me about PLTL, and I thought it sounded interesting then. And of course, as I always do in these instances, nabbed her for a case study to include in a book, which I thought made a lot of sense in terms of looking at enhancing learning and teaching in higher education. As Ellen said, I'm the Deputy Chief Executive of the Higher Education Academy, which is a government-funded body. 83% of our funding comes from the 4 nations, the funding councils of the UK, that is England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. And we receive over £10 million per year for core funding to help support the student learning experience. My role is research and policy, and so part of my brief really at the Higher Education Academy is to try to influence the governments of the 4 nations, but most particularly England. Our Minister for Higher Education, David Willetts, has been most intrigued by the book Academically Adrift that some of you might have seen, which is suggesting that at the end of the day in the USA there are huge problems further to the CLA, the inventory that was conducted with 1st and 3rd years in higher education, suggesting students are paying a lot more and actually gaining no value from higher education because they're not gaining jobs, or at least graduate jobs at the end of it, so why bother? In England now we have a similar sort of a push. So what I'm trying to do is to explore anything that we can do to help support students in their learning, and I think STEM is a really good example where we've got a number of students on courses coming along with really good A-level grade, which is equivalent to the high school diploma, A-level grade results that suggest they're exceptionally bright students, and in year 1 they find, for example, on a psychology course that they're unable to cope with the maths. Suddenly they feel failures, there could be dropout, or they just aren't able to perform at their best because of that. So we're exploring what might some alternatives be, what could we do, and we have actually realised in the UK that students as partners is a really good way to move forward. But I think you've taken the students as partners notion that bit further in terms of you've got students partnering each other to help support each other, which I think is really exciting. At a national level, the HEA supports the sector by working with institutions and other bodies to develop evidence-informed approaches to improving the retention and success of all students. Student engagement lies at the heart of retention and success, and therefore offers institutions the answer to their improvement. Successful higher education depends on a partnership between a student and the institution they attend, and the focus can be seen in work that's happening across the country in the UK. The Welsh HE sector's new enhancement theme, Set Graduates for Our Future, that has been identified for higher education institutions and sector organisations in Wales to focus their learning and teaching activity includes 3 work strands, and saying what works is students as partners, learning and employment, and learning for employment. The National Union of Students in Scotland has been discussing a focus on student learning for the forthcoming year, which ties in well with the new enhancement theme of developing the curriculum. And certainly students are involved in looking what curriculum changes need to come about to promote a curriculum that students can engage with. There's been much discussion about what this means for students and what student-led learning really means. There are external factors pushing curriculum development, like international recruitment and international employability, as indeed local employability. But how can students and student groups really get involved? The HEA Student-Led Teaching Awards project, piloted in Scotland, has been highly successful in this respect, not just in celebrating good teaching, but also in involving students generally in discussions about their learning. As a sector, internationally, we must be committed to equipping students with the attributes and skills they need, not only to find employment after university, but also to develop as individuals, and I would also emphasize as global citizens, and this is something that I feel rather passionate about. We should be thinking globally, not just insularly. We must be sure that all students have the opportunity to do this, and involving students in key initiatives and seeking their views will help to achieve this. Questionnaires were designed to measure student self-efficacy regarding employability and student self-efficacy regarding learning, and staff self-efficacy regarding teaching for employability. And I think it's this latter point that we've had the biggest issues in the UK, because some academics suggest that they haven't really understood anything about employability or how to get students engaged in thinking about employability. The project is proving to be a strong example of how students can be effective agents of change. And I have to say, listening to the various PLTL leaders last night, I'd say certainly students can be most powerful effective agents of change. PAL is a student-to-student secondary support system. So it's not unlike PLTL, which gives students the opportunity to improve their understanding of core modules and provides the opportunity for both academic and personal development of not only the attendees, but the PAL leaders as well. Oxford Brookes comments that PAL benefits PAL leaders and the university and module leaders, but that it's the attendees that benefit the most. However, the real winners are the PAL leaders. Resonates with the posters last night as well, in that the leaders gain additional critical reasoning and problem-solving skills, improved self-confidence and self-awareness, and I'm very aware of looking at PLTL, the number of you that then have suggested as leaders, it's encouraged you to go forward to graduate school, satisfaction from helping and sharing experience, enhanced leadership, communication, interpersonal and teamwork skills, enhanced understanding of assessment procedures, a larger network of people within the university, additional evidence for their CV and increased graduate employability, and finally, the university and the module leaders benefit. So the universities actually are claiming that they benefit, and I think this is really important, and I'm not sure I've seen the evidence, certainly from your posters, as to your universities, although your president here this morning at City University, I think, was making it absolutely clear that he could see the benefits of PLTL, which I think is really reassuring to see. And how can you get more of your presidents standing up? Because certainly Oxford Brookes, I know the Vice-Chancellor, i.e. the president equivalent there, would say, actually these are the benefits. Increased student attendance in lectures and seminars, right, because they feel that more confident that they understand what's going on. Improved grades, which leads to improved reputation, because if students are doing better. Lower failure rates on difficult modules, which lead to lower attrition rates. More dedicated students. Who want students who aren't engaged in the programs? More mentoring and interaction with students. Better networking between students and lecturers, because students feel more capable of asking the lecturers questions. Improved integration within all the years of the university. A more confident and contented first year, increased graduate employability for its PAL leaders. This brilliant example of using PAL at the Royal Veterinary College at the University of London is about the haptic cow, and go on the website because it's fascinating. Having seen a presentation just on this, it's such a fascinating project. It enables students to teach their classmates the basic skills required to perform important veterinary procedures. Delivery of a calf, for example, and I've seen that graphically, which is quite amazing. The PAL project team, Dr. Sarah Bailey and Helen Shaw, have also developed a Train the Trainers workshop with assistance from Dr. Deborah Gill at University College London. Now, you may not recognise these names of these institutions, but these are really our Ivy League institutions that we're talking about here that have introduced this. The workshop includes sections on lesson planning, another one on aims and objectives, another on questioning and dealing with shortfalls in knowledge, not dissimilar then to the sorts of programs that you have to train your PLTL leaders. After attending the workshops, peer tutors were trained to use the simulator and then delivered, no, not the calves, but one-to-one practical classes in a didactic format using a predetermined lesson plan. So, looking to the future, how can this non-traditional model be taken forward? Because it is a non-traditional pedagogy. It isn't embedded in our repertoire of what we say, right, all new lectures now if you're undertaking any program in what are the basics in terms of delivering an undergraduate degree program, which I think it should. So how can it be taken forward and be used in the future to improve the student experience? It's my contention that the PAL and the PLTL approach have a lot in common and could work together to really broaden their institutional impact by thinking and reflecting. And here's the perfect opportunity at an international conference like this one. My colleague, Dr. Steve Outram, we'll be exploring more with you on Saturday morning how to get involved in thinking about developing an institutional approach. And by an institutional approach, meaning staff and students working together. I'm delighted that the Florida International University PLTL team will be presenting their case study at the annual Higher Education Academy International Conference in July. And then I think we can really start moving our strategic dialogue as to how we might take this all forward. So in conclusion, I think it draws right back to thinking about the work of the Higher Education Academy and what we do and how we might work with you collectively in the future, probably via the organising group of the PLTL IS. At the HEA, we're concerned with bringing about positive change and in learning and teaching in higher education, when the lessons from the past are really no guidance for the future. We need to involve students at the centre. We do this by recognising and rewarding excellent teaching, not just research, by bringing together people and resources to research and share best practice, and by helping to influence, shape and interpret policy. We must ensure that we remain flexible enough to move with the times so that we can support HEIs in delivering what new generations of students need to be successful. And I was most impressed by what your president was saying about PLTL actually being much better at equipping students for a life post-university in terms of team working and the sorts of experiences that they'll need to be successful employees in the workplace. As the sector experiences some immense changes, we need to be ready to be supporting students in their own learning and their own development and in getting the best out of their time at university and beyond. We must be open to new models that can sit aside those that have been tried and tested and that students would suggest they do want to hang on to. And I think all the little pie charts we looked at yesterday demonstrates that actually learning does take place in a range of different activities, but that it is that peer-assisted learning where they're gaining the most in terms of the deeper learning as opposed perhaps to some of the more surface learning. But it's time to question traditional pedagogies. The government in the USA, as I said, with the publication of Academically Adrift, and the government in England are questioning what real value students are getting out of their higher education degrees. I think it's time for student leaders to be standing up and being counted and saying this is where the real learning will be taking place. Thank you very much.
They get the passing grade and they get
also teaching about chemistry, but at the end everything's confidential, don't get on just like you.
Teaching assistant scholars who have been the most effective during
My name is Matamata. I'm a junior at Truman High School in Goa City.
Has also content for our online workshops. We do it through Adobe Connect.
This presentation and thought, well, this is a fantastic idea. This solves one of our major
line was chosen so that there were about the same number of highs as lows.
Every student has their own login and password.
How many students who are attending the workshops perform working in past
all of our peer leaders are paid at an hourly rate. The hourly rate is
London or Cambridge examinations, or more recently we have a regional examination.
The team starts to work as a team, and we get lots of feedback afterwards where people say, we came as a group and we left as a team.
I'm Sarah Cordell. I'm from Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago, Illinois. And I'm the coordinator of our workshop program in the Department of Mathematics. And I'm trying to learn information about how to improve our program and sustain it. And I've learned a tremendous amount of valuable information from this conference, and I'm looking forward to trying to apply it to our workshop program at Northeastern Illinois.
It's a pretty cool conference. There are a lot of people, and it's a huge chance to network and to find out all the techniques that people use at our school.
This conference has been extremely helpful in finding out new ideas on how to change and improve our PLTL program. And I'm happy to say I've met a lot of wonderful people here, and I'm definitely coming back for the next one.